Hi everyone, I'm Rel Klein and you're watching my channel, and this is kind of like Rel Reviews, but not exactly. Also, I want to apologize, I have a sore throat, I have a cough drop in, so if my voice sounds weird, that's why. So if you read the title, this is kind of recap review of Smallville season 1. So Smallville's like one of my top favorite shows, number 2 maybe. But I'm rewatching Smallville for the 3rd time and I'm like, there's just so much to talk about, so let's just talk about it. But instead of reviewing every single episode, because like that's a lot of episodes, like 20 something episodes, 10 seasons, like so much, I'm like, why don't I just review the seasons? But maybe my 4th time watching it, I will review every episode, but comment below if you want that or whatever. So yeah, we're gonna talk about season 1 and we're just gonna talk about season 1, and you guys can write your comments below and I will do my best to read all the comments if there's comments and respond to them, and just want to like hear your guys' thoughts because there is 10 seasons of the show. Like it does change over time. And yeah, so I guess we can start by talking about Tom Welling as Clark Kent. I know, so Jensen Ackles was like gonna be the next person. It wasn't gonna be Tom Welling, like it was in the end down to them two. And I guess it's good that Jensen Ackles didn't get cast, because then Supernatural wouldn't have been, or he wouldn't, maybe Supernatural still would have happened, but he wouldn't have been able to be in it, because yes, he was in season 4, which we'll discuss when we get to season 4, but that was like only a 1-year contract, so then he was able to go do Supernatural. But if he was playing Clark Kent, Superman, he wouldn't be able to then do Supernatural. He would be in this contract having to play this character. I also really love that Annette, I think is her name, the one who played Martha Kent, she has played, I think, Lana Lang in the past. So I really liked that they try to use the same actors, or like at least keep in the family kind of thing. But yeah, overall I think the show is really well cast. Now watching it, it's weird seeing Allison Mack, if everyone knows what happened to her. I think when I was watching it the 2nd time, I kind of knew. I don't know if it was like that public about everything too. So it's like, it's kind of weird and kind of sad to see her like this. I think the Chloe character is something that wasn't in the comics that they kind of created, which does make sense. I think what's really great is that it is like a small, not necessarily small cast, but they like try to use, in season 1 at least, try to use all the characters. Even like Whitney, you're like, he does show up a lot. Like they use all the characters and they have it so that every villain or everything that happens, it's either, okay, Lana's in an accident this week. Okay, so this week Clark has to save Lana. Oh, this week something with Lex. Like, you know, I have to save Lex. Oh, something with Pete this week. Like Pete is now the love interest of like the villain. Like they always like change it up, but like same thing with Chloe. Like they do that way, so that way some can get more screen time than others, but everything. I think it was interesting they didn't, like, obviously we saw the first scene when his ship crashed down in his meteor or whatever, but it's kind of interesting they did start in high school, and that's probably because, you know, this is where really, like, not necessarily puberty, but like he starts really becoming a man. So as though he does have like the speed and the strength, like he starts getting the x-ray vision, and I mean they know what's gonna happen to Superman. They know he's gonna fly, so they like to like add little moments where it's like foreshadowing, or he like mentions it or everything. But yeah, they're trying to show growth. I feel like you really, in season 1, you know, each episode is very episodic. It's one villain an episode. They kind of end with the villain, but that's kind of how shows were back then, and it makes sense because they're going along with these things. And with TV shows, well, I studied film in school, but if you don't know this, a lot of times in TV shows, there isn't a lot of growth with the characters. The characters are pretty much supposed to stay the same, and they just have different experiences, which is different than a movie where they're supposed to have total growth the entirety of a movie. But in TV shows, it's a little bit different, and of course characters have growth, but it's very slow. and over time. And nowadays shows have like 8, 10 episodes a season. And so then because it's shorter, then the growth, like, it's a little bit quicker. And I think in some ways that works, but some ways it doesn't work, because with this, like, it feels a little bit more realistic because growth takes longer. But it is hard sometimes when now you're so used to watching those 8, 10 episode seasons, but when you get to these 20 plus, it feels like it's going slow. So I do feel that a little bit in season 1, like, oh, it's slow, it's slow. Pretty much every episode, it's like Lana's trying to, like, you know, trying to do things on her own, trying to, like, do her own thing, like, trying to discover who she is. Chloe's investigating. Pete's just kind of there. I wish they gave him more. Like, I feel like he was probably even less than Whitney, like, because Whitney had this whole thing with his dad too. Like, Pete was just kind of there, and I feel like they should have gave him more. Lex, he's like always trying to, like, investigating Clark, and also dealing with his dad. So it's very formulaic, the episodes, but that's how it is. When I'm thinking about it, when I'm rewatching it, it's kind of, I do feel like the turnover, I never realized this before, but the turnover of, like, Clark becoming Lana's friend and Clark becoming Lex's friend does happen a little bit fast. Like pretty much in the pilot, like, they don't know each other. Like, even though Clark goes to school with Lana, like, they don't talk. Like, he can't get within feet of her or whatever. So it does, like, I didn't realize this before, but after a few episodes, like, they're now friends. And when you think about it, I think, at least with, like, Clark and Lana, like, I feel like they at least do things more or talk more. But, like, with Clark and Lex, like, all they do is, like, go to each other's places, talk for 5 minutes about something, and that's it. Like, how are they really friends? Like, I think about it. And I think it's weird because, like, they don't actually do any activities. They just, like, talk. How do they really become friends? And I know that's important because they build this friendship that, you know, in later seasons, they become crazy and they become the biggest villains, and it's this whole thing that Clark saved them in the first episode, blah, blah, blah. But it's still, like, they didn't really do activities. A lot of these characters just go over to each other's houses, just like, hey, just stop by. I heard, like, you got injured. Like, when you think about it. Also, it's really crazy because this is Kansas. Like, you kind of pretty much need to drive everywhere. And I think they said a few times that, like, Clark and Lana were, like, a mile apart. How did they just walk over each other's places? Also, there was a couple of times with the bus stop that, like, Pete and Chloe were at Clark's house waiting for the bus. That must mean they must have lived, like, right near there. Or, like, how did they get there? Like, just some logical thing. Also, something I'm, like, I don't know if they knew this right away when they were doing the first episode, but they're freshmen. They're 14. How old is Lex? Like, I'm confused because at once I thought maybe he was 18, but then I'm like, maybe he's a little bit older, because, I mean, he does look older, but that might just be because he's bald. But then, like, a lot of the women he dates are definitely, like, older, so it's just, like, a little bit weird and confusing. I mean, when the meteor hit, it looked like Lana was, like, 3, 4, and Lex looked like 8, 9, but I'm still, like, a little bit confused, like, how, like, Lex is his age, or whatever. And then when you also think about it, like, obviously we know what happens with Lex and Lana, but, like, he's known this girl since she was 14. Like, that is messed up. And they do a couple moments in season 1, you're like, oh, if you know what happens, like, you see, like, a couple moments that, like, would pass over someone's head if they didn't realize it, just being like, oh. But, like, he's known her since she was 14, which is, like, so weird. Also, something else that I, like, felt like my first 2 times watching, that now my 3rd time, I felt like I was always okay with the Clark and Chloe. Like, I don't know if I really, like, ship them or push for them, but I was kind of like, oh, like, if they happen, they happen. And, you know, if you know the show, like, in later seasons, a couple things happen, but they never really get there. But I was kind of the person that was like, okay, like, yeah, like, always saw Chloe as an option for Clark. Not watching it, I'm like, there's no chemistry there. It's actually, like, I don't know if just because of what happened to Alice and Mac, and I'm like, it's, like, getting in my head, but I'm just, like, not not for them together, and I'm actually annoyed, and like about them together, and like when he took her to a dance, like it just I also feel like the show really gets into like parenting styles that like I never really noticed before, but now maybe because I'm older, and I mean I'm nowhere near being a parent, I'm 22 years old, but I think it's really interesting how Jonathan and Martha wanted to raise their son and really have him be a good man and really be a selfless, not selfish man, and how that contrasts to how Lex was raised. And just pretty much like everyone in the town, like a lot of these people are bad and how they were raised, and like kind of fears take over. But like even those people might be deep down good, when they get these like powers or whatever, it like makes them do bad things, where they really push hard because they know Clark has these powers to really like make sure that he does good and like really be like a good person. And that really does show in the episode where his powers change to the other person and everything. So I think they did really do a good job like raising Clark and having him be like this selfless man. But in a way, when I think about it, is like he is lying, like he's straight up lying. And so he gets mad at like Lex investigating him, which yes, he does have a right to get mad. Like if your friend or best friend, as they call each other, like is investigating you, like yeah, they'd be mad, but like you're also lying to him, so you can't, like that's why he has reason to be investigating you. Yeah, no one, I think towards the end of the first season, they start like questioning him more, be like, why, where is Clark always going, blah blah blah. I do know it kind of picks up in the second season, but we'll get to that when we talk about the second season. But we're still in the first season, and I think it's so crazy that like there's so many, not necessarily just that like Clark's at these car accidents or Clark's saving these people, but there's so much like violence and crime, and like there's always car accidents, there's always murders, there's always robberies, and I'm like, this is a small town. Like there's that, like also the same episode where that guy got switched with Clark for his powers. Like this guy's just running down the street trying to rob Chloe, and then Chloe's like, oh, you see my purse. You're not traumatized that someone tried to steal your purse in broad daylight? Like these people are just like, ah, like I was just in the hospital, like, but I'm fine. And I feel like they, like, it just, there's so much crime. Like, I do want to say that Smallville, and not just the first season, but in all the other seasons, and we'll get to it, the end of the season, the finale, they always were so good leaving it on a cliffhanger. And this is before Lost, and Lost was like one of the first shows where they had it be more serialized, where like every episode kind of left it as a cliffhanger. Episodes like crossed each other, and like Smallville did this good thing where they, well, not necessarily a good thing, but was very episodic, where, you know, the villain would be done by then an episode, blah blah blah. But they did, what was great was the season finale would always be like such a big cliffhanger, and like it would be something where it's like anyone could die, like anyone could be dead. And so yeah, it was really great. They did the tornado, and it's very shocking. And I mean, I can't imagine like 2001 like actually watching the show and being like, ah, and like with the cliffhanger, and having to like wait till next season. Like it must have been really crazy, and that's probably why the show ended up having 10 seasons, is because they knew to do that always on season finale, so there had to be another season. But I do think, I mean, I don't know, I should do research if they knew that there was going to be 10 seasons, because I mean, I know I'm just talking about season 1, but just overall as a series, they knew like to have things not be rushed, and all of Clark's relationships and plot lines and everything not to be rushed. And they do, I feel like they do keep him a little bit more innocent in season 1. Like he never kills anyone. Even these villains, a lot of them don't die, or they do die, it's by accident, like, oh, I by accident electrocuted myself. So it is very innocent. I think they were just still like setting the tone and seeing where this show could go and where the show could be. So, but season 1 is a very enjoyable season. And it is a lot of episodes, so it's got a point where it's like, what's going to happen in season 2? How's it going to change up? And of course, season 1 leaves on this huge cliffhanger where anyone could die, and there's always something happening to every character. I think they did that really well. They always made sure every character had a plot line and wasn't like kind of being pushed to the side, and that's why I think, I don't want to give away season 2, but that's why I think they brought Pete in a little bit more that way. But yeah, overall, these are my thoughts about season 1. I might be forgetting some things. I don't know what I'm forgetting, but I'm probably forgetting some things. But I just want to hear you guys' thoughts, and if you like me doing these like reviews about Smallville or whatever shows, because I can do it for other shows too. But yeah, so please comment below all your thoughts and everything. And thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and goodbye.